Okay, welcome Loudon Soccer goalkeepers and parents and coaches and any field players that have joined us this evening. My name is Dave Puchero. I'm the Director of Goalkeeping here with the club, and I appreciate your interest in this Zoom meeting tonight. I've got two college goalkeeper coaches that have joined me, and we're going to chat a little bit about their college programs and their experience working with and coaching a number of different college goalkeepers at different programs. We did a similar Zoom meeting like this over the winter, and we brought in current college goalkeepers to talk about their experience. I thought it was a good idea, and hopefully everybody will feel it. Will appreciate the Zoom and get a lot out of it, and the information that the college coaches are going to share concerning the goalkeeper world and everything else that they're going to discuss. So real quickly, what the discussion is going to look like tonight. I'm going to introduce these two here in a second, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them regarding their programs and get their thoughts on coaching college goalkeepers, and then ask them a little bit about what they feel is important when they go out and go recruiting for the programs, looking at different goalkeepers. And then we're going to chat a little bit about the youth side and get their thoughts on the youth game and talk about the challenges for youth goalkeepers going from youth soccer to the college level. And then at the end, I will open it up to anybody on this call if they have any questions for these two coaches. We'll take them then at the end. So our first coach joining us this evening is Billy Childs. He is currently the University of South Florida men's assistant and goalkeeper coach. Previous to coming to the university, he was the assistant at George Mason University from 2015 to 2021. And before that, he was at Towson University as the assistant and goalkeeper coach, and he played at Towson University, was an All-American there, and played professionally nearby here in Baltimore before devoting his attention to college soccer. Our other goalkeeper coach on the women's side is Dirk Van Devere. He's currently the Boston College women's assistant and goalkeeper coach. Like Billy, he's just joined that program recently. And before going to Boston College, he was also the assistant at George Mason University from 2009 to 2021 and the goalkeeper coach there. He also played in college at Norwich University and started his college coaching career there. During his time in Northern Virginia at George Mason, he was the director of goalkeeping with the Braddock Road Youth Soccer Club, and he's got his NSCA Premier Diploma and National Goalkeeping Diploma as well. Both these coaches have ties to Loudon Soccer. Coach Van Devere, a number of years ago, was in our goalkeeping academy and worked with a number of goalkeepers for a couple of years with our club. And Coach Billy Childs, we've brought in a couple times into our college ID camp when he was at George Mason, and he worked with the goalkeepers there. I really appreciate their time. They've been busy wrapping up their spring season today, and I've been running around. Coach Billy is joining us from his car where he just finished the camp, so hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties, but if we do, that's the reason why. The first thing I wanted to ask our coaches is, can you guys discuss what it's been like this past year for you? As I mentioned a second ago, you're both new to two new programs. What's it been like? How did your fall season go in your spring season? And how's it been with your goalkeepers?
Yeah, thanks, Dave, for the introduction and for having me on this panel this evening. So like Dave said, I'm fairly new to Boston College. I started last summer in July, 2 weeks before preseason, and the ACC is a very competitive conference. Most would say it's the best conference in the country. BC, we had a great non-conference season. We only lost one game to Michigan, which was a 1-0 game. So we were very motivated and looking forward going to the ACC conference. And then we started off with Duke, UNC, Notre Dame, and Florida State. Those were our first four opponents, starting the ACC conference. And, when you look at the ranking, it was 2, 4, 6, and 7. So we pretty challenging opening slate for a conference. Bounced back with a win against Syracuse. We tied nationally ranked Pitt. Lost 2 games on the road against Louisville and Miami, where we thought we were the better team. And then we tied Wake Forest at home. If we can get 2 wins, against Louisville and Miami via the RPI, it gives us a good boost, and we think we can, make the NCAA tournament, as an at-large bid. So, yeah, we're very hopeful for the future of where Boston College Women's Soccer is going. We have 9 freshmen coming in this fall that will be joining us on June 29th. They will be attending summer school, working with our strength and conditioning coach. And we also have a couple transfers that will be joining us here in a month or so. Spring season, like Dave said, just wrapped up for us. We played Harvard. We're very fortunate to have a lot of Division I schools in our area with BU, Northeastern, and Harvard, and UConn. It was a very good spring season for us. The players worked very hard. We train about 10 units a week. So a unit is either a strength or conditioning session, and another unit is just practice. So the way our spring works is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning we lift, and then right after that we train. So those are 6 units. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays we have conditioning followed by a training session as well. So that's another 4 units. So those are 10 units that that the players have to accomplish, during the week. So they do get spring break off, and then they had Easter because we're a Jesuit school. They had a couple of days off, Thursday through Monday. So that's basically another spring break for them. So girls worked hard, and we're really looking forward to the fall season.
Thanks. And Billy, at the University of South Florida, you want to chat a little bit about your year and also the differences between George Mason and University of South Florida?
Yeah, thanks, Dave, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. So this was, like Dave mentioned, and like Dirk, I'm new to University of South Florida. I joined last June. We had a phenomenal season. We ended up playing in the second round of the NCAA tournament. We lost to FIU in our conference tournament. We play in the AAC. Some teams in that conference, we have Memphis, Charlotte, Tulsa, SMU, just to name a few of the teams. We actually my starting goalkeeper, he actually was a 5th-year grad student from Marquette. He actually finished up his career. So we are actually bringing in possibly 2 more goalkeepers for fall 23. We had a mid-year guy come in from Elon University who's joined during this December, and we had a kid from Argentina who's on the roster who played minutes this spring. One of I think the differences from George Mason to USF, I'd say first and foremost for basically the recruiting budget's a very, very big difference. We're able to travel a lot more. And with the competitiveness of our conference, we have to have all hands on deck, almost in a sense where we're all able to just kind of go anywhere at almost any given moment, especially when the season ends. For example, we had gotten back from our Thanksgiving break, and I ended up, like, the day I got back, I had to fly to Canada to a recruiting event literally the next day. And then a week later, I was supposed to go to Trinidad, and just the budget just makes things more different, as far as being able to recruit players. As far as overall the makeup of the spring, what makes us also very different is that we're allowed to play professional teams. So, for example, because of our location and our climate, a lot of Major League Soccer teams will come down to Florida and have their preseasons. So this year we played Orlando City 2. It's only about, I'd say, at the most a 2 hour drive away from Tampa, where South Florida is. We played Halifax, which plays in the first division in Canada. FC Cincinnati come down again for their preseason. So that's one of the differences I would say as far as when our spring season starts and when it ends. Our guys finish our last game, probably it's been 2 weeks. So right now we're in the last week of our 8 hours before we start exams. So I will say that is probably another big change, is being we start our spring ball very soon because the weather allows us to, and we also conclude earlier because of we've already started and we'll have all our training times in. So I would say those are the biggest differences between George Mason and University of South Florida. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, great, thank you. How many goalkeepers do each of you work with currently? And what separates the starter for each of you, or what I guess is the difference between your current starter and the other goalkeepers that are backups? And then the last part of this question is, I'm sure that's got to be difficult for the backups that aren't seeing a lot of playing time, unless you're in a situation where you're splitting the goalkeepers. If that's the case, that you've got a backup or two that don't see a lot of playing time, how do you motivate them when they're not seeing a lot of playing time?
Yep. With me at Boston College, we have 2 goalkeepers on the roster right now. We're gonna have a freshman goalkeeper join us in the fall. But with the 2 keepers that we have on the roster right now, Vipke Willenbrand is our starting goalkeeper. She's from Germany. She just has a good resume. She was a youth national team player with the 17s and 19s. And the reason she's our starting goalkeeper is, I would say, presence. She's 6 foot tall. She's phenomenal in the air on crosses. She commands her 6 really well. She is pretty much another field player. So all our defenders are very comfortable passing the ball back to her feet. When I train her, sometimes I can't tell which one is her dominant foot. She can play a 50-yard ball with her right and with her left foot. So that is a big difference between a starting goalkeeper and a backup goalkeeper. And obviously with her presence and, with her frame, she gets to balls that are hit well into the corner. And she just has more range and she can cover more of the goal. That's why she's our starting goalkeeper. And ways that I keep, our backup goalkeeper, motivated is that's what the spring is for. The spring is all about development. So we sit down as a goalkeeper union and we plan out, what are the goals we're trying to accomplish throughout the spring season. And, just focus on the process. What kind of progress are we making? What am I good at? What can I learn from my past success? Am I preparing the right way? So, and basically when we're playing small-sided or in anything, I'm always giving positive feedback to the goalkeepers when they're making a good save. So it's always upbeat, and I tape all the training sessions. I have an iPad on a tripod, standing right next to the goal. So I'm constantly giving feedback on what needs to be corrected. And, both the goalkeepers made, tremendous progress throughout the spring. And that's basically the goal for the backup keeper, trying to get better day by day.
Okay, thanks. Billy?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So our starter actually graduated, and just about him, he was a unbelievable shot stopper. To pull saves that were pretty unbelievable. He wasn't the best with the ball at his feet, but he made up for it with just sometimes the game-changing saves and his leadership. That's what helped him stand out. And for next fall, I'd say we have a projected starter, and I think part of what our conference is, what we need is I tend to recruit some bigger goalkeepers like Dirk. We're gonna have we have a 6'5" kid on our roster. We have a 6'4" kid on our roster. We've got another 6'4" kid, and we've got a 6'1" kid. And I think what separates them all, because we're a team that likes to keep the ball at our feet and play out of the back, is the ones who are very strong with the ball at their feet will most likely play. And the gentleman we have coming in for next fall, he is good in the air, similar to what Dirk said, and also very good with the ball at their feet. So which makes things a lot better because the college game has changed significantly where it is not so much playing in behind all the time. It's more, can you break lines with your penetrating passes? Can you play the outside wingers? I would say that the starting goalkeeper for us will be able to do that consistently and be effective. In regards to the goalkeepers, the reserve goalkeepers who are not necessarily getting the big minutes, for us, because this was my first year, all the goalkeepers that joined us were new. So it was an acclimation period for me as much as it was for them. So having a lot more dialogue, being even more hands-on, video for sure. I'm very keen on having those one-on-one conversations about what they see, as well as showing video to kind of to show you what they may have seen and what they may have not seen. So just having those personable conversations, just going over things that, again, that you could tweak a little bit to maybe make a correction, or applaud something that was done exceptionally well. So having those, like Dirk said, those upbeat dialogues is always vital. And I think part of it also is for the spring for us, because our starter had graduated. The two guys that we had, they were able to play pretty significant minutes every spring game. So each of them played a half at every game. So they got to see game experience. And I think that's something that at any level, whether you're a Division 1, 2, or 3, the game experience is key, and that helps build confidence. And that spring is really for that, because at the end of the day, when you're trying to build a quality core of goalkeepers or of a team, you want to give people the opportunity, and the spring allows you to do so. And because we're able to play some professional teams and kids were able to get experience, it helped them tremendously just take big strides. Again, having the one-on-one conversations is vital, and it's huge, and the very candid conversations, I can't stress that enough, where it's having conversations, what do you think? And I think getting that honest feedback, one, helps me as a coach, but two, it also helps the players identify where their strengths and weaknesses are.
Great, thank you. How much time do you spend with the goalkeepers in both the fall and the spring seasons? So with college soccer, your fall season is your primary season. Both of you have touched on the spring season. That's the off season, much less games, less time that you're allowed to practice. But do you work with your goalkeepers every day in practice in the fall and every day in the spring? And if you do, how much time usually do you work with them? And then the other piece of my question is, and Billy just touched on it, how much do you use individual video where you bring your goalkeepers in and look at them on video?
Yeah, so I work with the keepers every day. Starting in the fall preseason, typically I'll have a little bit more time with them, just to develop them a little bit more in the first week. I'll probably get anywhere between 35 and 45 minutes working with the keepers. And then, topics range from distribution, end line services, cutbacks, tipping, crosses, so we're just trying to cover all the basics, during that first week, just get a little bit of everything in. And then when Jason, our head coach, is trying to fine tune and trying to get more tactical training sessions in, then my sessions get a little bit shorter. I would say anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. So then I'm just really working on a simple motion or just something easy for warm up with the keepers. And then going into the season, it all varies. If it's a single game week where we only have a game Friday or Saturday, then typically on a Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll have a little bit more time with the keepers before we then focus more on team training, on tactics and everything, where, the goalkeepers are incorporated a little bit sooner in the training session. The reserve keepers will get a lot of ball handling on days after the game. So if we play Thursday, the Friday session, the starting goalkeeper, that's a communication part with me and Vipka. Sometimes I'll have her train, sometimes I won't, all depending on how she feels. If she's tired, if the muscle tightness or anything, maybe she'll come join for 20 minutes and just do some ball handling, and then she gets to rest and go with the field players and just do recovery, and then whoever's number 2 and number 3, then they'll play small sided games. In the spring, typically in the first couple of weeks, I'll have 45 to an hour with the goalkeepers, because the field players are doing more functional training. They're working on receiving and passing, and so I'll get a lot more time with the goalkeepers through the first couple of weeks. And then when the spring games kind of kick off, so around March, going into April, then it shifts a little bit more to a little bit more tactical. Okay, what formation, what shape are we working on? What do we think we're going to be playing in for the fall? And then to your question about video, so I used to record a lot of video sessions with a GoPro and then go over it the next day. But then I kind of shifted to the iPad, because on a large iPad, I can stop the session real quick and I can just go back immediately as we're in the training session, and I can show the small clip. Was like, hey, this is, where I want you to make an adjustment, and the goalkeeper sees it right away, and then we go back into the training session, and the success rate is just a little bit more higher, getting them to where they need to be. So that's kind of how I shifted my training session with recording training sessions.
Okay. And Billy?
Yeah, very similar to Dirk with a lot of that. Just as far as the training goes during the fall, we generally we never had a week where we really had one. We may have had 1 or 2 weeks where we play one game, but the majority of it 35 minutes with the goalkeepers. Again, depending on the game schedule, we had one solidified starter for this past season. So pretty much, if the day after, if we played a game and he played, there was an injury or something would have happened, the next game, the second and third goalkeeper would have a much more intense session, and we'd go into small sided and we would play. But on average, I would say it's between 30 to 40 minutes during the fall. And in the spring, it was still relatively similar to that. The only difference was obviously you add an extra day where you only play games on the weekends. So for us, we played our games on Saturdays. So Monday to Friday, when we got to our regular hours of training, they got to see me every day, and we would pick a topic and go on to it. And when we got to functional as well, I would pull something aside and do the goalkeepers. We would do more functional things for them that would help them, just sharpen their tools. As far as the video goes, definitely use the iPad. It is one of the. I mean, I've gone from there from a GoPro to an iPad is a significant difference, and I definitely think that being able to and I do a lot of airdropping to the guys. So when we have our individual meetings, I'm very big on here's the clip, and I will airdrop it to them, and they're able to watch it on their phone, which is a much easier way of being able to just kind of look and see and evaluate it, because they can slow it down and replay it, or I'll just connect it to my TV in my office and we'll play it through that way. So the video is very important, especially in the training sessions, having that even that detail where it's like really focuses on little habits. And then we use Spidio as a whole for our conference, and we're adding now a camera from behind each goal, which will give us even a much more aerial view from how the back line looks with the goalkeeper positioning, which allows us to even be more detail oriented when we're breaking down film. But I will say that, like, again, the spring has allowed me to work with the goalkeepers for definitely a little bit longer, but having the extra day is even more valuable than necessarily the hour and a half of training. So you get an extra day of training with them and you're able to work with them, it's phenomenal.
The mental side of goalkeeping, most people would argue that the most difficult position is the goalkeeping position, as far as being able to bounce back and dealing with the pressure and goal, having poor performances, things like that. Do you spend a lot of time working with your goalkeepers on the mental side of things? Do you have a team psychologist that does that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, at Boston College, we have a department who, the players can make appointments with, and they can seek, back from about the mental side of the game for sure. Obviously, I'm not educated, or I don't have a degree in psychology or anything like that. So, what I try to, get, to my keepers is, focus on the process, and focus on the day-to-day actions, and not the results. It's kind of like baby steps every day, and be great at what you're good at. So, if Vipka is great on distribution, like, continue to be awesome at that. Try to be upbeat. Don't be like, be an energy giver, kind of. Are you preparing the right way? Are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? Be humble to learn. That's kind of like the mental side of what I'm trying to, make them understand a little bit more. And just, remember why you play, why you love the game, and just focus on the strengths. So that's kind of like what I try to get the message across to my goalkeepers.
Billy, you have anything to add?
Yeah, so we also have a sports psychologist, and again, I'm not a licensed psychologist in by any means. So the kids have the opportunity to be able to meet with them one on one. I think for me, I was taught at a very young age to control the controllables. The things that are within your grasp. And I know sometimes in the heat of the moment, passion gets involved, and sometimes you try to do too much or you take it too personally. But for me, I try to stay level-headed and calm, and I think that demeanor from a staff goes a long way with the players, because then they're also entrusting in that process as well. And I think just having a dialogue, so especially for me, like in the warm-up for the game for the keepers, it may be intense, but right before kickoff, I usually pull them aside and I say, okay, this is, we talked about what we need to focus on. Relax, play your best game, and control the controllable. I think that to me it's been effective, I feel like. But definitely, sometimes, we can overthink and overanalyze situations, but I think simplifying the process makes things a lot easier.
Very good. I know there's a number of goalkeepers on this call right now that are very interested in playing college soccer. So the question I have for you is, when you're recruiting for your programs and you're looking specifically at goalkeepers, you've talked about it a little bit, but what do you look for in recruiting from your goalkeepers, and has it changed at all, being in different programs based on the head coach and the philosophy of the soccer? And then the last part of the question is, what do you think a good goalkeeper video looks like? What would be your advice to our Latin goalkeepers in terms of when they put together a goalkeeper video?
Yeah.
Highlight reel.
Yeah, just like, Billy mentioned before, like, we're looking for a goalkeeper that's great with, with their feet, needs to be able to receive the ball, need to be able to switch the point of attack, and it just needs to be 11th field player on the field, and helping everybody out. What I look for is just, competitive spirit, being competitive at everything you do, because if you have that competitive spirit, it's contagious. It goes over to the other goalkeepers, and it just makes everybody better overall. And it can also, roll over to the field players. I kind of like a blue collar goalkeeper, a worker bee, just grinds it out, gets it done. Just hard work. Also, there has to be a certain accountability to yourself, to the coach, and to the team. um, don't look for excuses, don't point the finger at somebody else because the defender lost the ball or anything like that. Just hold yourself accountable. I mentioned this already, like energy givers, smiles, high fives. So if another keeper makes a great save, I want you, screaming at the top of the lung, great save, just high fiving all the way around, in the goalkeeping group. That's contagious. It goes around, it makes everybody smile, and just makes the practice more enjoyable. Lead by example. So that's another thing. Lead on and off the field. When I go recruit, I'm watching you arrive at the sidelines. I'm watching your body language and how you act with your teammates. I watch you during warm up. If you don't have a goalkeeper coach, that's warming you up, and then you're there with the other goalkeeper. Like, how does that look? How engaged are you? How focused you are? And then a team player. At BC, we just had our senior banquet this afternoon, and we have an award that is We Over Me, who, and it was Jordan who won the award for us this year. And this kid she's not a starter. She's a walk-on kid. But you tell the kid, you're going to play this position, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And she just puts, the team above herself. So it's we over me. And it was awesome. And then what we recruit is the students, the student athletes. You have to be, a good student in the classroom. Unfortunately, we were talking to somebody who was looking to walk on at BC. She scored a 1480 on her SAT and she didn't get in. Boston College had a 15% acceptance rates from everybody that applied to the school. So I kind of fell out of my chair when I saw that she didn't get in with a 1480. That's completely different than George Mason. George Mason, if you had 1100, you were going to get in for sure. So if you're looking at these high academic schools, make sure you're doing well in the classroom and you're doing well with your test scores. And last is just being humble. Don't live in the past, not live in the future, just stay in the present. The mindset, take it day by day, and keep the team humble. And coaches love if you're humble. What was it? Was there a second part?
I think that's it.
That's
Good
it.
information. Thank you. Billy.
Yeah, so for me, I think when I'm looking to recruit goalkeepers, and whether that's international or domestic, the leadership is probably the number one component. I think someone that is able to handle crisis well, because a lot of times we're put in stressful situations. How do we respond? Um, and response, there's a lot of different ways you can go with that. But I think being calm, but also being assertive is the temperament you really should have. Again, like, sometimes you see goalkeepers in the professionals that they're yelling at their teammates because they want more out of them. But in certain players you can speak to like that, other players you can't. So you have to be adaptable. That's another thing I think that's important, because certain guys respond well to that type of dialogue and communication. Others need a much more calmer, more, monotone, just overall communicative method. I think, obviously high academics is important. I mean, because you are a student first, not just a athlete. Kids that are, want to, excel in the classroom and have aspirations to do other things other than necessarily soccer. I mean, I think it's important to recruit players that want to play, first and foremost, but what their aspirations are beyond that. Being a professional is one thing, but when you go to college, you want to get a degree first, and then if you can pursue professional career afterwards, that's amazing. So, kids that are just level-headed, hardworking, demand a lot. And then I think, for, I think you mentioned, Dave, the training clips. I think, you did mention that, right, Dave?
Yes, a proper goalkeeping
Yeah.
recruiting video. What does it look like in your opinion?
Yeah, so for me, and I'm going to actually add this to my goalkeeper session. So I bought a mic for my kids, and I'm going to implement a mic in with the video. I would love to see where there's some training clips where it's just a simple handling and stuff, and a little bit of distribution, but nothing too long. The training clip can be a little bit shorter, but then I want to see in-game moments where it's not just you making the save, but seeing a little bit of a build-up that actually adds the save when the save occurs. Um, I love the idea of having vocals involved because I want to hear that your decision making through the moments of what are you telling the backs and then when it happens. That can be challenging to do, but I've seen some clips recently where a goalkeeper has had a microphone behind the goal and you hear him talking and organizing, and that to me is amazing to hear because you actually can hear how he tried to eliminate the issue before it arose. So definitely some training, with some handlings, the ball at your feet for sure, playing out of the back, dealing with crosses, and then keeping those same clips into a little bit of a longer video, nothing too extensive. I want to see a few aerial balls playing out of the back under pressure, not just when no one's around, because it's much easier to play a ball when no one's pressuring you to an outside back. But under duress, how do you handle this situation? So those are the big things that I would look for and that I continue to look for in my training in these highlight videos.
Okay, and the video is 3 to 5 minutes long, right? Something like that?
Ideally for me, yeah. And then
Yeah.
I think, and then obviously at that point, I'll if I'm interested in a player long enough, I want to see the full game, and then I'll watch. And then but for just the shorts for the snippets, I'd say 3 to 5 minutes is perfect.
Okay. Shifting to the youth side now, when you, and again, going along the lines of recruiting, because we're talking about that right now, when each of you go out and watch youth games, you go to showcases, what do you think are some areas that you think need to improve in youth goalkeeping? And what do you think is the biggest jump or challenge for youth goalkeepers going to college soccer?
That's a good question. I think it's just the first and foremost is just the confidence piece for youth soccer players in goal that I see. If you're a goalkeeper that has great positive body language and communicates well with their back line, that shows confidence, and that's something that I notice on the sideline. Just the understanding the game tactics. I feel like not just the goalkeeping position, but the field player position. I feel like youth soccer players should watch a lot more games on television and in person. So obviously living in Northern Virginia, you have the Washington Spirit or you have DC United. So, or you have the semi-professional team in Loudon, just around the corner. I feel like that's an area where I would really focus on and seeing how, and I would sit behind the goal. If I'm a goalkeeper, I would sit behind the goal and I would listen to what the goalkeeper, what kind of information they are providing to the field players on how to shift and when to step, and and that's a big aspect of the game. I think that's lacking at the youth soccer right now. It's just the communication piece and just the confidence, what to say. Are the goalkeepers providing that type of information? Are they providing the language that's needed during the game? Yep. What was the second part again?
I think that was it. Just the biggest jump from youth to college.
Yeah, just what we try to do. The biggest jump is to Boston College. You need a more of a like a bubbly, like more like, this is me, this is who I am, I'm going to be the starter. You just need to have the confidence. At the Power 5 school, you need to show up and you need to be top of the fitness, and you just need to show up. Like at George Mason, one of my past goalkeepers, you can probably come in and be a little bit more shy, and try to progress throughout the years and then become a starter. But at the Power 5 level, you just need to have that certain chip on your shoulder, and you just have to own it. That's kind of the mentality that you have to come in at the Power 5 schools. Like, you have to know that I'm here, I'm the number one, I'm going to be the starter. That's the mentality that you have to have. If you don't have that, you're not going to play at a Power 5 school.
Okay, great. And Billy, areas that need to improve at the youth level?
I think the trainings, I think there are more clubs that have goalkeeper coaches. I think that if we're able to add a little more video sessions in the training sessions where you can break down a little bit, that would be extremely helpful. I think it's definitely gotten a lot better since when I played, because, I didn't have a goalkeeper coach at the club level. So that's a huge step in the right direction. I will say that, I think goalkeepers at the youth level, and then when they go to college, the biggest transition for me is, one, the speed of play, and when they make decisions in those moments in those games, that they can concede a goal because they're playing with better athletes. For example, shots they should hold more of. Those rebounds that they give up and they can get away with, where the attacker's not thinking, I'm going to run onto it and follow it up. That's a small detail, but it's huge, because if you save a shot in a college game, 9 times out of 10, the attacking player is going to apply pressure on you, having to deal with a second save if you can make it. I think also the physicality of it at times. I think, depending on where you're from and what type of soccer you're playing at the youth level, Major League Soccer, and I'd say, Development Academy, it's changed a lot, where you play a lot of the balls at your feet. So when you get to situations where you actually have aerial duels and the kids have to deal with it, it makes it challenging how they handle those situations. And, it's, I think everyone who coaches in college and who's played in college, they realize that set pieces sometimes win and lose games. And those lofted balls in the box, when there's bodies in front and you have to make decisions, you have to be fearless. And like Dirk said, you have to be confident to know that I'm going to win this ball one way or the other, whether it's a punch or it's a snag. I think that's a big thing that the youth game does not see, because a lot of kids, when they come in, they're like, oh my God, there's a 6'4" forward who is athletic and can challenge me in the air and can jump just as high as me, and it makes it challenging. So I think that is the biggest change from the youth level going to college, is realizing that there are people here that can compete with you, and who are necessarily maybe a 22-year-old sophomore that have played at a high level, whether it's in the Bundesliga, whether it's in the Serie A. It's a big adjustment, I'd say.
Last question I have, and then I'll open it up to everybody. For younger goalkeepers that aspire to play on an ECNL team, or that aspire to play at the college level after their club career is over, what advice do you have for these goalkeepers? How do you think they should go about to achieve this goal? What should they be doing now? Your thoughts on that?
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, no problem. For ECNL goalkeepers that are looking to play in college, or for our younger goalkeepers that aspire to be on an ECNL team, what advice do you have for them in terms of trying to achieve those goals? What should they be doing now? And what advice do you have for them to be the best goalkeeper they can be?
Okay. Get as much goalkeeping training as possible every day if you can. The more shot stopping, the more handling you can get, the more agility work with cones or with ladders, the better. Find yourself a goalkeeper coach that takes you out of your comfort zone, that pushes you on a daily basis. And like I said before, watch film, watch video. Even if you just go on YouTube and you just watch highlights reels, like that's what I did when I was a younger goalkeeper coach or a goalkeeper. I would watch highlight videos. I had VHS cassettes back in the day. I want to pop it in the video recorder and see how the goalkeepers executed certain saves and everything. And I tried to mimic it in practice. Because like Billy, I didn't have a goalkeeper coach growing up, and I had to teach that to myself, in many ways. How to dive, how to catch a ball. The goalkeeper coach back in the day wasn't as big as it is, nowadays. So just train as much as you can with your club coach. That would be, my number one advice.
Okay, good. And Billy?
Yeah, I'd probably say it's a tie between that and I would say definitely getting the goalkeeper training in, but game simulations, playing games. I think that's even more important, just as important. I think, and playing at a high level. And I recommend for kids that are able to play ages up, where the speed of play is different. I think that'd be phenomenal. I think one of the things that helped me as a player, as a young player, was playing against men and playing in just that helped me a lot, see the game a lot faster because the ball was coming quicker. I had to make quicker decisions. I think that's good. And like Dirk said, I mean, you can't really train enough one-on-one with the goalkeeper position. You can't, because the reality is when you go to a college, if you go to a relatively, at a good level, you're going to get that training every day. So for us, we want somebody to come in who's able to do the fundamental things, and then we excel your career, and can we magnify even what you already have even more. But if you come in and you're a little bit behind, then it's going to play almost like a little bit of catch up, and then that's where you run into the issues where the frustration of not getting minutes and all that stuff. So giving yourself the preparation, and when you're at a club like Loudoun, you have good goalkeeper coaches, you're getting the training, you've got the facilities, so the resources are there. It's just maximizing it and just making sure that you're taking advantage of them.
Great. We just have a couple minutes left. If anybody has any questions for these two coaches, I know all of you are muted, but you can type in your questions in the chat box at the bottom there. So we'll just take a minute here to see if any questions come in. I think you guys did such a good job. There might not be any questions. Okay. Well, oh, there's one. How do I know if I am communicating enough? Good question. As a goalkeeper, Billy or Dirk, either of you want to take that?
I mean, yeah, I can give a little bit of that. So for me, it's not how much you say, it's what you say. So for me, it's like you want to say things that are going to help your team or help your teammates be successful. So there really should if you're winning 6-7-0, there's something you could say. The reality of it is you want to say things that are going to be constructive and help motivate your teammates. So I wouldn't say that there is like a certain amount of words you should say in a game or a training session. I think for us from a standpoint is we don't want to just hear you chatting the whole time, because there's moments where you want to let the players play. It's like, the new coaching model is, coaches are not going to overcoach. So we don't want the goalkeepers to become coaches so that they're trying to do too much and say too much. So, you want to give input where you feel like they're lacking in a certain area or they need some encouragement. That's wonderful. But the reality of it is you want to let your teammates play, but give them guidance with your words. That's what it is. You're a leader from the back. So we want to be able to just make your input, keep it short and sweet, concise, and then let the play develop.
Great, thank you. Two more. Oh, they all start coming in. Should recruiting videos be sent directly to goalkeeper coaches or head coaches? Dirk?
Should be everybody on staff. The more coaches that see the video, because the head coach could be a former goalkeeper coach, just like at Boston College right now. Jason was a former goalkeeper coach at Wake Forest. So send it to the entire staff, even the volunteer coach. If the emails are listed, yeah, the more eyes you that can see it, the better. Yeah.
Okay. Billy, do you think we need to be on an ECNL team to get recruited for college soccer?
No, not necessarily. I don't think you have to. I think now, granted, my landscape's a little bit different now. It's changed since George Mason. So, for example, the Jefferson Cup when I was at George Mason was a big event we would go to. We've kind of altered switching to a bigger conference, I've had to alter where I go scout players at. Now, I still have my connections in the area back home. So there are kids that if a coach calls me and says, "Hey, there's a kid you need to take a look at. He's not playing at the top level. Come take a look." I'm going to go take a look because I trust their opinion. So I wouldn't say that the league's going to necessarily, it's not going to necessarily ensure you that you're going to college. It does help to get seen by more schools when you go to the bigger events. But I think you even go further back in the process, and I think you look at going to, if you're a rising junior or even a sophomore, you want to go visit a college that you already know you're interested in and go to their ID camp. Or like Loudon has their own ID camp where they have college coaches that come. You want to make it a point to be able to go to those places and see the schools that you're interested in and do your research.
Great, thank you. Just a couple minutes left. This was actually one of the questions I was going to have you guys discuss. What do you think about dual sport athletes? Does it help or hurt goalkeepers?
I love this question.
Yeah.
Go ahead and take it,
Dirk.
I love it when they play dual sports, especially any sport that has a hand-eye coordination, whether that's basketball or women's lacrosse. So I'm all up for it. Obviously, it then takes away from from more goalkeeping training, but I don't have a problem with it. I had a lot of goalkeepers at the youth level play basketball, and I felt it helped them, and it brings a little bit of a different body coordination to the game as well, just playing different sports.
Billy, you want anything to that?
Absolutely for it. Played 3 sports in high school, and I can't stress it enough. It makes a huge difference, especially dealing with crosses. I think it is definitely something that, if you can play basketball or baseball, whatever, like Dirk said, hand-eye, I would recommend doing it because it really does help.
Great. Dirk, ODP, is it worth it?
If that is an avenue where you can get more training in, yes. For certain programs, like for Boston College, am I going to look at your resume just because you played ODP, now you jump to the top of my list? Doesn't necessarily, but if you have, I would say, the financial means, and if you have the time management to get more training and especially playing minutes in games, yes, go for it. It's definitely worth it.
Okay. Last question. If you have someone that you recruited that has an internship or a conflict with the start of your preseason, do you allow that? It sounds like more of a philosophy of the head coach, but Dirk, do you want to take that?
I never had that before. Never had a player come in late for preseason because of an internship or summer school or for a job. The only time somebody came in late was maybe the visa issue with their I-20 from an international student. But typically, everybody that for Division One, when we report, first week of August, that's the date, and everybody's there, and ready to go. That's just the philosophy of the head coach. Everybody should be there on reporting day.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's like that at most places. Okay, well, these were great questions. I appreciate everybody that tuned in this evening, and hopefully you found that helpful. It's always great for our goalkeepers to hear coaches like these two. They hear from people like myself and their team coaches all the time, but to get a different perspective at the college level, I think is great. And I think the information, the answers that Billy and Dirk gave tonight were really, really helpful and informative. And again, I want to recognize them and again, tell them that we really appreciate their time. Dirk had a long day today, spring game and a banquet. And as I mentioned before, Coach Billy was finishing up a camp and hasn't even gotten home yet. So we really appreciate their time. So on behalf of Loudon Soccer, again, thanks so much, guys. And good luck with the start of your summer. Hopefully you'll get a little bit of vacation time. And hopefully we'll see you in Northern Virginia again soon.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
Okay, last thing for anybody that missed this, if you hear of anybody that wants to see it on video, we will be posting it to our website. We did record this, so you will be able to see the video probably sometime early next week or the end of this week. But that's it. So thanks to everybody, and we'll see you on the fields again soon.